Welcome, everyone. This morning we have an informational briefing before the Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs of the House and the Committee on Corrections, Military, and Veterans. Thank you so much to Chair Hashem and Vice Chair Chun for being here. Other members are watching from their offices, and they'll be here presently. It is Monday, March 18th, 10 a.m. We're here in conference room 325 at the State Capitol, and we're also running this informational briefing on video conference. The purpose of the informational briefing today is for all of us to learn more about the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission. It was established by the Hawaii State Legislature in 2019 to ensure transparency, support safe conditions for employees, inmates, and detainees, and provide positive reform toward a rehabilitative and therapeutic correctional system. And very grateful today to have Chair of the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission, Mark Patterson, and the Oversight Coordinator of the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission, Kristen Johnson, and the Reentry and Diversion Oversight Specialist, Kara Kampani, and Commissioner Martha Torney. I really appreciate all of you being here today. I'd like to turn it over, unless you want to make some introductory comments, Chair Hashem, before we start?
No.
Okay, if not.
Excellent, better than I could.
Thank you very much. I think so. First, I'd like to turn it over to the Chair of the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission, Mr. Mark Patterson. The floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Aloha and good morning,
Aloha.
chairs and members of the committees who are here. It's an honor to be here and to present to you the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission. You know, we are in a time now where Hawaii is experiencing a lot of tragedy, you know, and a lot of uncertainty in our future. We're here today to just specifically talk about Hawaii's correctional model. Yeah, over a few decades ago, the community, in an outcry, in the advocacy for reform and correction, came to the legislators saying, hey, changes need to be made. And we were lucky enough that the legislature in foresight began with task forces to look at reentry and to look at population control. And at the end of those task forces, we looked at the possibility and the potential of creating an oversight commission. And in 2019, the commission was created. In 2020, we had our first meeting in January, and then COVID hit. Yeah, it's a real understanding about the commission and the struggles and obstacles that we have had since our birth is also reflected of the struggle and the obstacles that the community has had in voicing their concern of our correctional model. We are at a point now of not pointing fingers and putting blame on anybody, but understanding this is where we are today and how do we move forward. It's not about one leader, it's about multiple leaders, multiple agencies coming together to create a solution and creating a better model for our people, public safety, and our families. Sometimes it's often hard for me right now to consider where do I begin, you know? But we always have a model, yeah, in Hawaii that sometimes we can look upon if we just focus on the juvenile justice reform in Hawaii and the things that have happened there to where we are now in creating the diversion of alternatives to incarceration in the community that has resulted in the decline of our incarcerated population. And it's proud to say that two of the foundation and pillars of that movement over a decade or 2 decades ago in Commissioner Martha Torney and now the new Commissioner, Judge Mark Browning, is that we continue to bring those reform-minded individuals to the commission to say, hey, it can be done in the adult system as well. Yeah. We'd like to uplift at this particular point in time that the legislature did make a great decision in creating this commission. Yeah. Someone to work in partnership and not in adversary roles with the new Correctional and Rehabilitation Department. Yeah. And as I say that, I uplift our leadership. We went 3 years without staff during the COVID era, and rightfully so. Money was being placed where it would need in support of our community. But in summer of 2022, we were able to hire our first staff, and Kristen Johnson. Over 10 years of correctional oversight on the mainland. She is a standard specialist for the New York City Board of Correction, where she focused on improving conditions for individuals in custody at facility staff on Rikers Island. She was an analyst with the Michigan Legislative Corrections Ombudsman, overseeing and investigating complaints in the state prison system. She's nationally recognized certified practitioner of oversight and co-chairs the Jails and Prison Oversight Committee at the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. She holds a master's degree with a double concentration in analysis of criminal behavior in corrections and rehabilitations from the University of Cincinnati and a Bachelor of Science in Sociology with a concentration in criminal justice from Central Michigan University. She comes to Hawaii with all this background and understanding of standards and oversight of correctional system, but she also comes with a clear understanding of the cultures of Hawaii. Yeah, and really bringing that national knowledge at a local level, meeting staff and figuring out how to weave the cultural components of our people with the national standards so that we can come up with a model that is effective as we move forward. So with nothing further ado, I'd like to introduce you at this time, Kristen Johnson.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here today. So I'm going to take you through our presentation. We try to keep it brief for you all, but today we're going to go over just an overview of what oversight is, the history of the Commission, our powers, duties, our vision, our mission, our value, an introduction of the commissioners and the team, an overview of our accomplishments and also our impacts, and then the investment that we believe we bring to the state of Hawaii. So what is correctional oversight? So according to the National Resource Center for Correctional Oversight, it's an independent external mechanism designed at minimum to ensure collection, dissemination, and use of unbiased, accurate, and firsthand information about correctional conditions of confinement and the treatment of incarcerated individuals, primarily through on-site access to the facilities. There are 3 goals of oversight, which is to improve transparency, increase accountability, and also change lives of those most impacted, so usually those who live in the facilities and also those who work in the facilities. As created by the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, there are 13 principles of correctional oversight. I won't go through each one of these, but I do want to note that we're very, very proud that we have at least 10 of these in a very short period of time, and so we're very proud of our work in building up this office. There are multiple benefits of correctional oversight in accordance to both of the previous agencies mentioned. And so regular monitoring of correctional facilities benefits incarcerated people and staff by enabling the early detection of problems and offering opportunities to fix the issues before the state becomes liable. This is particularly relevant when it comes to federal consent decrees. Correctional administrators benefit by being able to discuss their institution's capabilities and needs publicly, and by being offered new ideas by an outside independent agency. Judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and policymakers benefit from having accurate information about data, programming outcomes, living conditions, and rehabilitative and reentry efforts. And also the media and general public benefit from external oversight because it promotes transparency, accountability, and also democratic values. So now we can jump into the actual history of the Commission. Mark had already kind of touched on it, but it really started in 2015 with a Norway trip. Representative Greg Takayama was actually on that trip. At the time, he was the chair of CMV. But a group of stakeholders wanted to go to Norway because Norway is really known to have the best correctional institute in the world. And so after that trip, they created a legislative task force known as the HCR 85 Task Force. And in 2018, that task force came out with a report, and one of the key recommendations was to create an oversight commission overseeing the correctional facility, but also an important piece of that was to help the facilitation to a rehabilitative and therapeutic system. So they were successful in that. In 2019, House Bill 1552 was passed as Act 179, which today we know as our Hawaii Revised Statute 353L. The Commission convened in 2020, which Mark had kind of touched on, and staff was able to come on board in 2022. So the powers and duties of the Commission. So In accordance to 353L-3, we are to oversee the state's correctional system and have jurisdiction over investigating complaints at correctional facilities, facilitate a correctional system transition to a rehabilitative and therapeutic model, establish maximum inmate population limits for each correctional facility, and formulate policies and procedures to prevent the inmate population from exceeding the capacity of each correctional facility. We also oversee reentry, more specifically the comprehensive reentry program, including educational treatment programs, rehabilitative services, workflows, and the Hawaii Paroling Authority's oversight of parolees. And then with that, we also monitor compliance of Hawaii Revised Statute 353H, which is specific to the comprehensive reentry system, and to ensure that people are getting out in a timely manner and receiving the programs that they need to get out. One important note I want to point out here is that most oversight in the agencies in the country only investigate, and that's about a quarter of our mandate. So we're very, very proud that, you know, we really get to focus on that rehabilitative and therapeutic process and really look at reentry. So the Commission's vision and mission, our vision is that the HCSOC will be the leader in corrections oversight and will set the standard for best practices nationwide. Our team is very competitive in this, and we're actually very proud to say that Michelle Deitch, who is the Director of Prison and Jail Innovation Lab and the founder of the National Resource Center for Corrections Oversight, stated that in just a few short years, Hawaii's Correctional System Oversight Commission has gained a national reputation for the excellent quality of its work and the effectiveness of the oversight they provide. So we take our mission very seriously. Our mission is through targeted change, accountability, transparency, and engagement. The HCSOC will produce progressive and sustainable outcomes to better public safety in the state of Hawaii and facilitate a correctional system transition to a rehabilitative and therapeutic model. Our values are alohi lohi, being upfront and honest about our work. Kuleana, always following through and following up to accomplish what we said we would do. Pono, being honest and having strong moral principles. Aloha, being genuinely concerned about other people and people's needs. And ha'a, intentionally looking for ways to uplift others to higher levels of confidence and experience. And I'd like to briefly introduce our commissioners and staff. We have an incredible team here with just immense experience. So I'll start with Chair Patterson. Chair Patterson is the current administrator of the Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility and former warden of the Women's Community Correctional Center. He is known for his work in trauma-informed care within a correctional environment. Commissioner Ronnie Barr, who is currently out of state, served as Chief Judge of the Third Circuit Court before retiring in 2017. He has also served positions as the Third Court's Administrative Judge, the First Deputy Prosecutor in the Kona office, and the county's Cooperation Council. I do want to note that Commissioner Ibarra started two really important treatment courts, the Veterans Treatment Court, which started in 2015, and the Big Island Drug Court, which started in 2002. Commissioner Torney is the former Executive Director of the Office of Youth Services and the former Deputy Director of Administration of the Department of Public Safety. Notably, Commissioner Torney took on the Office of Youth Services while they were under a consent decree. A settlement agreement. And before retiring, she got she got the Office of Youth Services under 85% compliance, which made it much easier for the next director coming in. Commissioner Town, who's in the back here, retired in 2010 after 30 years as a trial judge, 14 in family court and 16 in circuit court, with 3 as a senior judge. Commissioner Town also served as a law professor of criminal law, restorative justice, family law, and more at the University of Hawaii. And he also served as a commissioner on the parole board from 2011 to 2019. Commissioner Mark Browning, who is our newly appointed commissioner, he's actually getting sworn in this Thursday, served as First Circuit Court judge for 14 years before recently retiring. He had served as district family court judge and was presiding juvenile drug court judge. Prior to his appointment to the family court, Judge Browning was also a partner with a private law firm and also served as deputy prosecuting attorney for the city and county of Honolulu. Now moving on to the team, George Shea, who's in the back here. He's what I refer to as the heartbeat of our office. He manages everything from travel to tracking legislation to handling meeting agendas, minutes, and recordings to updating our website and social media, and literally everything in between. George previously worked at the Attorney General's office as an assistant to the Special Assistant to the Attorney General, and also as a district manager for many years at Hertz. Kara Campani, who's at the end of the table here, we're very, very proud to have Kara with us. She brings over a decade of experience in correctional oversight and reform on the local, national, and system-wide levels. Kara led the work of DC Corrections Informational Council in their inspection and monitoring of local and federal correctional facilities. Kara was also a co-lead in the Reimagining Prison Project work at the Vera Institute of Justice, which put forward a new reimagined vision for the future of corrections. Kara is a native New Yorker with a JD from Elizabeth Hubbs School of Law at Pace University and an LLM from the George Washington University Law School. So we have quite the team. And because of that team, we've been able to accomplish quite a bit of work. And so since the commission was created, we've had 63 public meetings. That includes monthly meetings, facility-specific meetings, and also community talk stories. We've also taken public reporting very seriously. We were the first state agency to actually publicly report on deaths in custody, which is very, very important. We started that in October of 2022. We've also put out 36 public reports, which include 19 monthly reports, 10 facility-specific reports, 4 annual reports, 2 strategic plans, and 1 year in review, which kind of covered what the commission was able to cover, what the commission was able to do in 1 year since hiring staff. I also want to point out that the commission has been highlighted in at least 97 media articles. The reason why I point that out is because I want to really highlight that the community very deeply cares about this work. The media would not cover our work if the community didn't care. And so it's been really great to see the seriousness that the press has taken in our work. So the commission has also conducted over 65 facility visits. Some notable facility tours. We took the Supreme Court justices to OCCC, the Hawaii County Prosecutor's Office to HCCC. We've toured with the Senate at Halava and OCCC. We've taken House members, which of course included Rep. Hashem, to HCCC. We took the Senate to Saguaro. We brought an outside agency, a nationally known agency called AMEND, to OCCC. And then we also traveled out of state to go to the Las Colinas Detention and Reentry Facility Tour. And that was really important because a part of our mandate is actually to continuously research other jurisdictions to see what we can do better here. And I'm really excited to say that Rep. Hashem also joined us for that tour in San Diego. So with all of these facility visits and everything that we're seeing and hearing, we have put out over 60 recommendations, which have contributed to improvements in our correctional system. And examples of these recommendations include ensuring basic federal standards and requirements are understood and followed, including proper access to court, bed frames, bunk beds, and cells, access to clothing and bedding, access to outdoor recreation, and access to menstrual pads. We've also recommended painting and reconfiguring cells for those on suicide watch for a more therapeutic environment. We've also recommended restoring contact visits to ensure stronger family ties and better success in reentry, and also ensuring that vehicles are not parked in the sally port unless it is in active use, and that the sally port gates are secured unless a vehicle is entering or leaving to prevent a potential escape of detainees. So now I'm going to pass it on to Kara Campani so she can really cover her reentry and diversion work since starting with us.
Okay, good morning and thank you all. We're all really grateful for this opportunity to share our work with you. And I really mean that. We're passionate about what we do. We love it. We do it every day. So it's really an honor to be able to share some of that with you. So I'd like to start by sharing a little bit of the strategy around and our actual work as it relates to reentry and diversion. So some of what Kristen shared before was about how almost half of our mandate relates to reentry and diversion. So we take that part of our work really seriously. It's important to us. So there's 4 main categories that fall from our focus on reentry and diversion, and they're outlined here. oversight, reentry, rehabilitation, and population limits. So I'm going to briefly go through each one of these. Brevity has not been my strong suit, but I'm making it my strong suit today. So for oversight, in terms of reentry and diversion, what we're looking at is when we're at facilities, when we're looking at system-wide issues, we're looking at facility-specific reports and recommendations related to reentry. So we're highlighting best practices that we see, and we're making recommendations on how to improve that system-wide in terms of the oversight function. And for reentry, our mandate is very clear on what we are to do here. It's outlined, monitor and review and report on the Comprehensive Offender Reentry Program, which is outlined in HRS 353H, and then ensure that that program is resulting in timely release of people in custody at their minimums. So what we often hear is that people will come up for a minimum hearing for parole, and all of their programming won't be complete. So that's something that we're looking at, and that's actually a current project that we're working on now. And in terms of rehabilitation, our focus on rehabilitation is facilitating the transition to a therapeutic and rehabilitative model of corrections. So that's a lens that we use through all of our work, but specifically here, what we're looking at is what are the needs of people who are in custody? What do you need to be healthy, safe, and successful? And so when we see those needs, we're looking at it in terms of diversion and rehabilitation. So how can we keep people out who are appropriate for that? And then how can we really prepare people based on the needs of the population? And then finally, population limits. There we are partnering with people in each of the circuits and collaborating to identify where we can further diversion and deflection efforts, identify areas where we can start them, and then really just serving as a resource to different stakeholder partners in that area. Okay, so what we'd like to highlight here are the specific processes and projects. So when I say processes, it's like, what are we considering? What are we looking at every day to inform the work of the commission? And so here, what we have done is we tour prisons, jails, and reentry houses. We're collaborating with Tommy and the leadership from his department, collaborate with union leadership and stewards, so that's a really important piece too. Connect with and respond to community members and impacted individuals, collaborate on diversion and deflection efforts, which is something that I just mentioned in the previous slide, review judicial and parole hearing processes, and then finally, we took all that information along with many others, which I'm not mentioning because I'm good at brevity today, and we put together a general strategic plan for the commission, and then a reentry and diversion strategic plan. And I wanted to highlight some of the projects that we have done so far and what's up and coming for everybody to look forward to. So in the fall of this year, we hosted, along with Tommy and his team and the Correctional Reform Working Group, YWCA, and the School of Architecture at University of Hawaii, the Breaking Cycle Symposium. And that was really designed, and I know a few of you were there, that was designed to look at this, how do we facilitate to the therapeutic and rehabilitative model of corrections? So we brought in people from all over the country and all over the world to talk about different practices and how we could bring them here to Hawaii. Also, we are leading, Kristen and Mark are leading this effort here, the HCR 23 Task Force, to review parole setting minimums. And Kristen, who's very charming, she does some charming mechanisms here. So she brought in the Council for State Government to help us with this effort. And I just want to highlight that that's at no charge, no cost to the state. So really great effort there. Every month we do a facility-specific tour and report, and we put forward recommendations, and then we're also tracking and monitoring those recommendations through subsequent reports and through communication with the leadership in the department. We've also developed a complaint intake system. Again, Kristen was very charming here. We partnered with ThoughtWorks, which is a nationally known technology development company. I don't even know what to call them, but they develop these systems for people across the world. And so we've been able to work with ThoughtWorks and really find a way to understand and intake complaints and understand where we're hearing the most concerns. So are people most concerned about parole, or is it reentry program? And so we'll utilize that complaint intake system to further focus our work based on what people in the system and those most impacted by the system say is needed. And then these two final things. So right now we are in the midst of a correctional staff climate survey. So this came about because we were hearing a lot from staff and leadership about a lot of overtime, problems with time and attendance at work, and also just overall well-being for staff who work in correctional facilities. So we put together a staffing survey to get a better understanding of the system-wide issues that are going on with staffing. And we went post to post, facility to facility, Kristen, George, and I, and we talked to staff about the survey. They filled out the survey, and so we're working with the Criminal Justice Research Institute. They are compiling some of the results for us, and that's stage one of this process. And then next, Kristen and Mark are going to be going back facility to facility to facilitate talk stories with the staff. And that is really designed to put forward solutions. We've been working with Tommy on this and his whole team. And so our goal is to put forward solutions on how we can better support staff well-being and better support the system overall. And then finally, there are two reentry reports that we're working on right now. One is the review of the Comprehensive Offender Reentry Program in 353H that I talked about in the last slide. And then finally is a needs assessment survey so we can better understand the needs rather than just the crime of the people who are currently in custody. Okay, and then finally, I want to highlight some of the impact of the commission that we've heard from different community members. So we've received almost 160 public testimonies about the work of the commission, the oversight coordinator, and what we're up to. And I just wanted to read a few of these because they're really powerful for us, and also we're grateful for the way that we can serve, and we hear that from some of these testimonies. So one is from a former PSD DCR employee. Based on many years of experience and observations with PSD, now DCR, it's essential for inmates and staff to have an independent voice without fear of being retaliated against or silenced. This is from, and then a second testimony from the Office of the Prosecuting Attorney in Kauai. The coordinator has been instrumental in helping our office navigate connections between state agencies and community-based organizations to reduce recidivism for individuals being released from incarceration. And then finally, well, almost finally, second to last, we have testimony from a sergeant at OCCC. We have had talks about us feeling like we need the feds to come back. That's how bad it is. No one's listening to us. We finally have a voice and an ear listening to us. And the one last piece I wanted to highlight is we have this very broad range of support, and I think you all as legislators know that that's not always common, to have people from different entities, from the union, from staff, from community organizations supporting the work of the commission. So we have had public endorsements from UPW, from State of Hawaii Judiciary, State of Hawaii Office of the Public Defender, Office of the Prosecuting Attorney from Kauai, County of Kauai and Hawaii, Women's Prison Project, Community Alliance on Prisons, Ohana Ho'okapale, Going Home Hawaii, Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, and the ACLU. So that's my attempt at being brief for something that I could have spent a whole day presenting on. I thank you all for your time.
Oh my God, sorry. Now we're going to pass it to Commissioner Torney, who wanted to make a couple brief points before we finish up here.
Microphone up close.
Thank you. Kristen mentioned Michelle Deitch. I want to say that one of the very first things we did as a commission, use this one?
Just turn it so it's facing you.
Okay. Thank you. At our very first meeting, we decided we wanted to hire Michelle Deitch through a contract and have her come work with us. And we worked on that during our first 3 months, but then COVID hit, and it changed everything. So we did not get that advice, but we knew from the very beginning this is someone we wanted to be connected with. What I'm going to be talking about are our visits to the correctional facilities, and these are some of our findings concerning the physical plant, programs and staffing, and public policy that impacts the correctional population. The Commission considers we advocate for two primary constituents, and those are those incarcerated and those working in our correctional facilities. The physical plant. The current conditions result from decades of overuse. We do not lay fault on the current administration. They unfortunately inherited the facilities with the condition that they are in at this time, and they are responsible for responding to this. Examples of things that we found. At OCCC, Module 19 is one of our two largest modules. It has 36 cells, and so the population, the rated capacity was 72. There were over 100 people there on the day that we visited Module 19, yet 5 cells were out of commission. They were not operational. One of the cells was out of commission we were brought into. An inmate had literally torn the fixtures off the walls and set the place on fire. When it comes to repairing something like that, all those 5 cells, you really need to empty the module to allow workers to come in. But where do you send those people? They don't have the space to send them anywhere. On the corner cells, which are 92 square feet, there were 5 people in each one of the corner cells that were operational. I did ask, there are only 2 beds. I did ask, who gets to sleep on the bunk? And the response was, the biggest. That leads to conflict within the correctional facility, which our staff have to respond to. At WCCC, when we toured that, the kitchen and the infirmary were in very, very poor condition. And one of the things I want to say, and Director Johnson was not involved with this at all. He was at the Paroling Authority at the time. The previous administration planned to expand the capacity. I think it's about 178 beds in the expansion. And in that expansion, the previous administration did not include a new kitchen and an infirmary. I asked Director Johnson at our previous meeting, why was that not included? And his understanding, he was not there, was that it was raising the cost too high. We don't know whether this kitchen and infirmary will be able to support the additional population. I'm quoting from our report now. The kitchen is in abysmal condition. The sinks were filled with dirty pots and pans, dishes and utensils. The ceiling air vents were very dirty. There was pooling water by one of the floor drains. Rat traps with peanut butter were scattered on the floor. There was no one there, yet a large pot of something was boiling on the stove. Only one person, a cook, was on duty that day, and he was delivering food at the time that we visited. Staff shortages caused very dangerous conditions. For the infirmary was one large room that was supposed to have 4 beds in it. The infirmary was in appalling condition and should not be used, but it is all that they have. Half the room could not be used due to the ceiling leak from the AC conditioner or AC unit on the roof, and with the floor covered with pails and towels. The other half had 2 beds, one that was occupied long-term by an elderly inmate who recently had knee surgery and was confined to a wheelchair. These are abhorrent conditions. Since we put out that report, Director Johnson and his staff at WCCC are working very hard to bring those things up to code and resolve those problems. They cannot build a kitchen overnight. I'm sure there'll be a future CIP request for a new kitchen and probably redoing the infirmary in that area. We will support that completely, but they are trying to ensure when they open up these new beds that the kitchen will be adequate to support that. Programs and staffing. I want to stress again, which I think has been touched on by both Cara and Kristen, and the ACO our adult correctional officers are the heartbeat of corrections and have the greatest impact on the well-being and behavior of all the inmates that are incarcerated. Yet the department continues to suffer from chronic staffing shortages. It is not from lack of trying to get these positions filled. They're very difficult to fill. Officers are forced to work overtime in deteriorating facilities with an involuntary and reluctant clientele. We must provide support and encouragement to our uniformed staff and provide the opportunities for them to get training and participate with their counterparts throughout the country. I have been on the internet recently. Many of us had the experience in the past of going to national conferences and national trainings, and I've discovered, like the National Institute of Corrections, too much of it is done now via video. They don't have the opportunity to meet with their counterparts, but we need to be sending people to have those meetings take place. Inmate idleness is the greatest enemy we have in corrections. And in the jails, it is very, very high. There are very few activities in the jail inmates. The prisons are much better off, but I will talk about a few of these. First of all, the Halava Correctional Facility Learning Center, it is very, very active. It is a large area. They have GED programs, as you may be aware from the news. They have graduated people with associate degrees from Chaminade College, and they have many other computer access to other programs, work training and things like that, and very, very active. But a place that I was very disappointed in, our correctional industries, has been greatly diminished through the years, and now they're only working on commissary for the various facilities. It used to be one of our primary work training places. The warden at the facility, Warden Clooney, he is very interested in bringing up to par, and I'm sure that Director Tommy Johnson also supports that, because it is a very important function in corrections. Wyava Correctional Facility's drug treatment program has for 30 years provided the center of our drug treatment for male inmates. And I'm sure you're all aware that drugs are a problem among people who are involved in crime. Unfortunately, though, they cannot handle the population that the space would allow because they don't have enough staff. Finding certified substance abuse counselors is very difficult. You can also ask Alan Johnson from Hanamalka about this. He's having trouble filling positions, and then we're working in a correctional setting. So again, there is continuous recruitment. There are efforts through job fairs to get people to come in, but they're very hard to find. Also at Wyava, the production from their farm, which used to be very, very large, is only working at 20%. And that's due to, number one, they don't have a farm manager. Again, they cannot find someone qualified, and the warden told us the pay is very low. That's another reason people aren't coming. The farm, the Warden Ornelas, is most concerned that the facility can no longer donate food to the food bank, because to donate food to the food bank, they had to have a vehicle to go through, and that was Correctional Industries. And Correctional Industries is not doing that now. So that's one of the reasons we need to support Correctional Industries. A very positive program we saw there at Wyava is a carpentry program. There's a 6-week carpentry program operating in conjunction with the University of Hawaii. And upon completion, participants are granted direct entry to the Hawaii Carpenters Union as apprentices. 10 inmates go through a 6-week cycle. So that's very, very positive in getting people into jobs that will pay well once they are released from prison. Funding and public policy. I talked about the condition of our facilities, and I was in the administration of the department for a long time. We do get a repair and maintenance budget, but it is never enough to keep up with the work that needs to be done, which means things continue to deteriorate and continue to deteriorate until they are no longer repair and maintenance. They are now new construction projects, which cost a lot more. Also, state procurement rules often interfere with us getting the help that we need to have coming in and working with the facility to get this job done in a timely manner. For population control, our jails continue to be very overcrowded. The prison population has dropped significantly in the last 15 years, but the jails are extremely overcrowded. Pretrial reform is the best way to control the jail population. Looking at the jail populations overall, 60% of those incarcerated in our jails overall are there as pretrial detainees. We have sentenced felons in our jails that are going through the furlough program, so it even includes some sentenced felons when I come up with the 60%. If we're only looking at jail, it would be a higher percentage. The commission supports bills such as bail reform and other methods to reduce the number of non-convicted people that are held for very long times in our jails. Also, amendments to sentencing bills often increase both the jail and the prison population But there is no consideration when the legislature is looking at these bills and passing them as to the impact it will be on corrections. 25 years ago, we did have a sentencing simulation model that we got through a federal grant. It ran for 3 years. Legislators were able to come to us, give their proposal to us, and we were able to say, this is what the future will be in 2 years and 5 years as a result of this. Unfortunately, when the federal funds ran out, the legislature chose not to fund it. Did they still come to us and ask for us to do sentencing simulations? Of course, but we could no longer do them because we no longer had the staff. So as we work forward, we want to mention again that we are very committed to improving our jails and prisons. We are committed to working with the administration to make this happen. And we also thank your support in our work, because I have been very impressed, especially with the House support of the commission, and we appreciate it very, very much. So thank you.
Thank you, Martha. So with that said, I just briefly, before closing out, wanted to highlight the investment that we can bring for the state. And again, when I say investment, I mean, we can really prevent lawsuits. State oversight can prevent a federal monitor. The massive difference with the federal monitors, they come in, they decide what needs to be changed, things change, and they leave. And then things typically shift right back to what they were before the federal monitor come in. State oversight ideally is here to stay. And so we can continue to work on the issues. And as long as you can show progress in those issues, a federal monitor has no interest in coming here. They just need to see progress and dedication to the process. So with that said, the commission is requesting $462,134. I want to note that currently the commission is operating without a permanent allocation in the state's base budget. And so I want to be very clear that if we are not funded by the legislature this year, our office will close on June 30th, 2024. That's when our current funding lapses. And so the team will lose our jobs, and all of this work that we have been building and building and building for years will be done. So we really, really appreciate the opportunity to highlight our work and what we've been able to do for staff and people in custody and the community and the state. We are all wildly dedicated. I hope you can see that today. And we're open for any questions you all may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the comprehensive nature of your presentation, all four of you. Thank you very much. I wanted to offer the opportunity, if you have other commissioners that are here, if they wanted to come up and say anything, if I could.
Glad to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Let me turn to members to see if they have any questions. We can go ahead and start.
I don't really have any questions.
Representative Souza, please proceed.
Oh, thank you. I don't really have any questions. I just wanted to thank you guys for your work. I see you all over the building almost every single day, and just I do see the commitment. And yeah, you guys are just doing such a great job. And this is my unbiased opinion, even though Mark is my cousin.
Full disclosure. Representative Ganadin.
Good morning. Thank you all for your continued service to the state, to our communities. Can you explain your interactions with the Criminal Justice Data Center housed in the Supreme Court, and how you might be using that data to better inform the policy that you're going to be developing and giving to us?
Sure, I can take that. So we do have a good working relationship with the Criminal Justice Research Institute. Right now, you know, they're in an interesting process. They just received funding last year to create a data system that is very challenging to create. It connects the juvenile system, the parole system, the correction system, and I know I'm forgetting one, all into one database, which none of those databases currently talk to each other at all. And a prime example of that is, you know, the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, they track people by individuals, whereas the judiciary system track cases. So that within itself is challenging to combine. So they're working very hard on doing that. And so as far as the data piece of understanding long-term trends, we don't have that yet. They do keep us updated in their process. They do want our opinion, which we really appreciate. What we are working on with them currently is our massive staffing report that we're doing, where we received 800 responses from corrections staff, which was shocking to us, frankly. We did not expect that large of a response, and they helped us put in all of that manual data entry, because these were all hand surveys that corrections staff did. And then they're also helping us analyze the results. And so, I just want to be clear, even though we may not have the ongoing large systemic information yet, it is coming, but there are other ways in which we can work together, and we're really proud to be able to do that.
Go ahead, Representative Gannon.
As Ms. Torney mentioned, there are significant issues with jails throughout the state. We are looking at, as you know, the development of a new Oahu Community Correctional Center. This has been in the works for what might be decades now, as well as possibly a new facility in Kona on Big Island. Is the HSOC involved in that planning? Can you be involved in that planning? And what kind of support can the legislature afford you so that, what? Oh. Mahina. Yeah. And what kind of support can the legislature afford you so that you can work with the department, the administration, DAGs, a whole bunch of other people, so that we can think out facilities for the 21st century? It's the billion-dollar question.
It is a billion-dollar question. When we first started meeting with the administration on this issue, we had a lot of conflict, because the commission's position is that the planned facility, we do not object to having a new OCCC. We know it's needed. And we also do not object to the location of it, the old animal quarantine. We object to the size and the scope of the facility. And we haven't come to total agreement on that, but we are working much more closely with the department now on that issue. But that's specific to OCCC. The looking to put a jail in Kona has been talked about for more than 20 years. And we were hoping when the new court was being built there that we could associate with the court. The judiciary didn't want us to be associated with that. So we haven't been involved with any of the neighbor island facilities. But we do have some participation concerning OCCC, and especially that conference that was held with the School of Architect. They're very involved with the department, and so that's a crossover between us and the department.
Do you need some support from the legislature, either in the form of a bill to create a working group, or can you sort of tack on this work to the work that you're already doing?
I don't know.
If the legislature wanted the commission more involved in the jail planning process, then I imagine, putting together a working group to figure out what type of legislative language would be best for that could potentially be beneficial. I will say the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, they don't have to do anything that we say, right? Like, everything that we do is recommendation focused and recommendation based, but I also want to give the department major credit, because the vast majority of things that we sit down and talk about or that we put forward, they try very hard, to bring together. And so, I think it depends on the legislature's goal. Like, if they really want the commission to be involved in more of like a decision-making process, then that would take legislation. But otherwise, the department and the commission do have a good working relationship where, they do take our thoughts seriously.
Thank you very much, Representative
Can I
Kennedy.
follow?
Yes, please go ahead, Chair.
Yeah. Just a thought, like you heard me in the beginning when I talked about models that are already been tested and proven in the state. When we look at juvenile justice reform, at the time that it started, they also wanted to close the Alder Street facility, and they planned to build a new jail. And when I first saw that jail, I was very impressed as a correctional officer, because that's probably the best secured facility in the state at this time, 30-bed facility. And what is remarkable about that facility, as of today, the population is probably 8 or less, single digits for the last 6 or 7 months, because the reform effort has moved in a way that alternative to incarceration has achieved a success where the population has dropped. Yeah. So I'm here to say to you, what are we looking at in terms of the system? Yeah. Before we truly focus on building something, can we fix the system, reform the system? I'm excited. About a month ago, I've seen John Mizuno, I see Michael Champion, I've seen judiciary all sitting down in hearings talking about homelessness, mental health, and the judicial process. Yeah, conversations are occurring now, whether or not the commission started that or whatnot, but people are realizing that we have to manage and create a better system and create the alternatives to the incarceration effort. How many people really do need to be in our jails? Because when we can focus on fixing the system, we can see populations drop and truly build something that represents public safety. Yeah, but I think our systems that we can improve on also represents public safety at the same time as well. So I think legislatively, we really need to look at how are we going to resolve a lot of our mental health issues, our homeless issues, as they predominantly make up a lot of our populations in our jails at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And Rep. Kennedy, we can come back to you after some other questions that members have, and I will go to Vice Chair Takayama next.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Patterson. At the beginning, you put everything in context, I think, by describing the role of a trip to Norway. And I was privileged to be asked to be on it along with Bob Merce and then Associate Justice Mike Wilson. And I might say that what was eye-opening about that experience was that we learned what a truly functional, modernized correctional system looks like. The frustrating part of it is that when we came back, we realized, as we knew then and we know now, how far we have to go to get there. That was frustrating. And so the creation of an oversight commission and an oversight coordinator was born from that frustration. And the hope then was that you would help us get there. And I have to say that although it took a little while for the commission to bring on a coordinator, speaking for myself, I think you got it right. I think in less than 2 years, we've seen some meaningful progress. Going back to OCCC, I might say that I think it would be helpful for us to see what the Commission's vision of an ideal OCCC is in terms of numbers and programming space. You know, there is in statutory language, the money that was appropriated for the planning of OCCC was conditioned on the requirement that the planners consult with the Commission. Not that the Commission has decision-making powers, but you would be consulted. And so I'm interested to see what your vision of OCCC would look like, number one. And if I could, number two, you know, the staff, both uniformed and civilian staff in our correctional facilities are so important to implementing both the security part and the rehabilitation part. So I think as a legislature, you'd find no more committed chairs than the chairs of corrections and judiciary in terms of wanting to do the right thing. But I think it would be helpful to us to learn what ideas you have for improving the recruitment and retention of our staff, whether it means maybe changing work weeks or higher pay, or we need to hear that from you. So thank you.
We'd be grateful to hear your input now and then more details later, but please go ahead.
Yeah, very briefly. So with the new jail piece, one huge project that Kara had mentioned earlier is really looking at the landscape of reentry and diversion that's happening across the state. And so, you know, her report's going to be very detailed in figuring out exactly what is happening with programs, what is, you know, what's successful, what's not, as far as Hawaii specific, what's going on right now. And so once we have a better understanding of that, we'll be in a much better position where we can put forward very meaningful recommendations to what a new OCCC could look like. The second point is that we agree with you wholeheartedly about staff. We care very, very much about staff, and we're worried about staff, which is why we're doing the huge staffing project. Mark and I are actually starting the talk stories tomorrow. We're going to Lava. It's our first one. And what we're doing is we're not just going through the complaints the staff may have had or brought up, but we want to hear what the solutions are, because we want to make sure that the recommendations we put in our report are coming directly from the people who are actually doing the job. And so I imagine, a potential change in work hours might be a part of that, but we won't know until we talk to staff. But anyway, all that to say, it's coming, and we're very excited about it.
Real quick, we talk a lot about OCCC and building a new jail. And as the chair of the commission, I really want to uplift that we need to fix the jails. Yeah, we have to uplift the counties and their system. So whatever we come will be a unified approach of how do we create a jail program. Yeah, and work with the corrections and rehabilitation. Said this, whatever we want to do at OCCC, how does it look in Big Island? How does it look on Maui? How does it look on Kauai? We should not leave them out of the conversation of OCCC jail. We should be talking about how do we improve a jail system in the state of Hawaii, and remember that they have the same problems as we do as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Tornett, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the working conditions, because of the condition of the correctional facilities, are not good in the jails. And I was touring Maui one time with the former chief of staff for Governor Abercrombie, and he came out and he said, I understand now why we don't have people coming to work. Who would want to work in these conditions? And then he paused and he said, and we have people living here. So until we can start reducing the jail population, we're going to continue to have those problems, that the working conditions will not be conducive to having people come to us and stay with us.
I appreciate the severity of the situation. Thank you for making that point. I'd like to turn it over to Chair Hashem if he has any members on CMV that have not had a chance to ask questions, please.
Members, any questions? Mahina? No? No questions, Chair.
Okay, maybe I'd like to just ask a question. What, for your facility-specific recommendations focused on rehabilitation, what's the follow-up to the recommendations? How does that, how can we be informed about it? I appreciate the collaborative relationship you have with Director Johnson and his team, and they're open to suggestions, but how can we be kept informed about what you recommended and then what the follow-up is?
I'm glad you asked about that. So we put together a very large spreadsheet that encompasses every recommendation, why the commission's recommending it, what state law or department policy is relevant, or federal law that's relevant to why the recommendation is being brought forward, the date of the department's response, what they responded, and then also whether or not the commission found the response to be helpful, or whether it needs more work, more follow-up, et cetera, et cetera. Director Johnson and I have been working very closely on this. It is quite the process because there's constantly updates. And so I want to be sure that what we're putting out is the most up-to-date information, but it is our plan and our hope to release that spreadsheet this Thursday at our upcoming commission meeting. So that will be available on our website. You can see exactly what we've put out, exactly what they've responded, and what we plan to do with that. And that way we make sure that as we continue our facility tours, we're not just bringing up the same things, and that we're actually following through with anything that we put out. And so we really, really appreciate Director Johnson's collaboration on that. It's a big project, but we're excited to get it out.
That's great. Well, I look forward to seeing that. We don't want to micromanage, but we are very interested in being informed and knowing what's ahead of us as legislators for consideration. Please, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to add one thing. So right now, that report that I mentioned on the Comprehensive Offender Reentry Program, that will also include recommendations. So those will be included in that system, the tracking system that Kristen mentioned. And so those will be system-wide and facility-specific too. So you can look forward to those also.
Thank you. Appreciate that. This is, your work and the Oversight Commission is essential work, and your partnership with Director Johnson is essential for success. And I wonder, Director Johnson, if you might like to say a few words as we begin wrapping up the meeting today. The opportunity is there for you if you'd like. It,
No, Mark, thank you. I found the phone, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Johnson. I know you weren't planning on speaking, but I thought, to be courteous, I would give you the opportunity.
Thank you. I do have a close working relationship with the commission, and I do appreciate the legislature's interest in the work of the commission, but I would ask the legislature to dig deeper and to ensure that we get the funding we need to bring the facilities up to speed. They have been allowed to go underfunded for decades. And we can't have a real preventive maintenance program where you don't get enough money for basic maintenance of the facilities. I think it's important to remember that facilities operate 24/7. And they're not office buildings that close after 12 hours. And there's a lot of wear and tear on the infrastructure. So that being said, we'll continue our working relationship with the commission, and we will come in, as we do every year, and ask for appropriate funding for the facilities for maintenance and upkeep. And we do need a new OCCC, but I would like to stress that a jail is a transient facility. The prisons is where we need most of the programming. The jails is where we need some programming and where we need referral spaces and some program space. So I don't want people to think that this jail is going to be full of programs. It's really going to be full of space where we can do certain programs, limited programs. Because remember, people are with us for 3 days, 10 days, 30 days, up to a year. That's it. So we can't do a lot with them, but we can do more and we can do better, and we will. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So out of all the jails, which one do you think we need to, what is the priority for jails? Because we've been talking about OCCC, but we have jails on every single island.
Well, for the priority for this administration is OCCC, simply because it's the primary jail for the state. Second is, we did ask for money in the budget to look at a Kona facility, a small jail, 120 beds maybe, because 34% of the people in the HCCC jail are from the Kona side of the island. It would be best if they maintain connectivity with their families and are closer to the courthouse. We do need to move, and there is money in our budget to look at just the planning and design to relocate KCCC, because they're going to widen the highway and it's in a flood inundation zone. At some point, we do need to look at relocating the Maui Community Correctional Center. And even though HCCC, the neighborhood is built up around it, there is no money to move it, and there's no land to move that facility at this point. So in short, Hawaii's correctional system has been neglected for decades. And all I'm asking as a director is, if we ask for money, analyze it, look at it, but we're not going to ask for money we don't need. And the commission is here to tell you, from their testimony and the comments, that we do need the money we ask for the repair and maintenance of the facility, because some of the conditions are abhorrent. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But with the amount of money we have, it's not enough. 63% of our $325 million budget is salary. And so the rest, we pay $20 million a year in overtime because of our staff shortages. We are trying to recruit as much as we can. We're holding 6 classes this year. In previous years, we only held 2 or 3. We spend about $13 to $14 million a year in food for the inmates and detainees in our custody and care. So when you add the 63%, you add the $20 million overtime, you add the money for the food, and you add utilities, there's not a lot of money for repair and maintenance, even though we know we need it. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Director Johnson. You know, we're just an hour now, so I think we do need to wrap up, but I'd like to turn it back to the commission. Thank you, Director Johnson. The commission, Chair Patterson, Director Johnson, if you want to have any final words as we wrap up the informational briefing today.
That was the stare that told me that I do it. Thank you once again. That was a lot of information. You know, one of the most of the many things that our staff has done and that I'm most proud of is our website. Yeah, and the fact that you can go to our website and every meeting, every report, every communication that we have is posted there. And so it's really open for you legislators to really go there and look and see the work that we're doing, see what is being said, seeing community responses. I believe the videos are there as well from of our meetings. And I'm very happy, and I think, you know, a lot of the support that we are getting from the community is the fact that that transparency aspect that they've been asking for, they see in us, yeah? And so I want to just continue to uplift that, you know, what we're asking for, it's valuable, yeah? And we can see light at the end of the tunnel if we're allowed to continue the work that we've done. What you just heard right now is 18 months. 18 months of work. And if given the time and the effort and the resources to do 18 years, you can imagine what we can do together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the committees are very impressed with your work, very grateful for your work. We also are advocating for you with your budget requests. And so they're in our House draft of the state budget. And we will continue to advocate for that as we go through the process with the Senate to come up with a final draft of the state budget. And we really want to help you be successful because you will help our entire system. And I want to acknowledge that I heard the clear message from Director Johnson about the need for funding, and that when you ask for it, it's what you need. It's not what you wish you had, because there's a lot longer list of things you wish you had. Yes. But these are things that you really need. So I appreciate that. We've learned a lot today. And this informational briefing will be archived so that others can watch it who didn't have a chance to be here today, so that we all can learn. And we will continue to learn from you as we go forward. Look forward to your reports. Look forward to seeing what's posted after your next meeting, you know, so we can catch up on the status of all your recommendations for the facilities and what, you know, how we're moving forward with that. So if there's no further questions from any of the members, I just want to acknowledge, again, your great work and look forward to working with you as we go forward. There being no further business before these two committees, we are now adjourned.
Thank you.